Hi everyone, welcome back to KG Graves. My name's Kev. First, I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel. It is slowly growing, including those from my daughter's channel on YouTube. It's really appreciated and I really want it to continue to grow. I know I keep going on about it, but please watch the videos, give them a thumbs up, and more importantly, you must subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free and doesn't cost anything. Should you want to have a look at my daughter Charlotte's YouTube videos, then search for Charlotte Rebecca and her videos will come up. It's a completely different topic. Okay, so in this video I visit 2 cemeteries and 3 celebrity graves while I was in Colorado in 2014. The first cemetery is called Masonic and we find Ronnie Lane, who was the guitarist with the small faces, the faces and slim chants. The second cemetery is the Shrine of Remembrance Mausoleum, where we find actresses Ethel Merman and Ruth Etting, both actresses and singers actually. I find the story of Ruth Etting quite interesting, as it appears she was married to a gangster and he also tried to kill her. But more information about her and the other celebrities coming up shortly. And now the usual bit, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.
Colorado is the 38th US state, also known as the Centennial State, whose capital is Denver. I was on holiday in Colorado from the 16th of July to the 7th of August 2014 and visited 2 cemeteries and 3 graves covered in this video on the 1st and 2nd of August 2014. Okay, so let's get started. The first cemetery I visited was called Masonic in Trinidad, Colorado, and the grave is that of Ronnie Lane. Ronald Frederick Lane was born on the 1st of April 1946 in Plaistow, East London. He was an English musician and songwriter. After leaving school at the age of 16, Ronnie met Kenny Jones at a local pub, and they formed a group called the Outcasts. Initially playing lead guitar, he quickly switched to bass. While shopping for a harmony bass guitar, he visited the J60 Music Bar in Manor Park, London, where he met employee Steve Marriott. They set out to form a band, recruiting friend Jimmy Winston. Steve Marriott was chosen to be the frontman and singer, as well as the guitarist. The Small Faces were formed. The small part of the band's name was chosen as they were each no taller than 5 foot 6 inches in height. They made their debut in 1965 with Ian McLagan replacing Jimmy Winston in November 1965. They had a successful chart career with Ronnie and Steve Marriott writing the hit singles including Itchycoo Park and All or Nothing. He co-wrote all but one of the tracks on their 1968 concept album, Ogden's Nut Gone Flake. The album stayed at number 1 on the UK albums chart for 6 weeks. When Steve Marriott left the group in 1969, they disbanded, but they reformed in the late 1970s without Ronnie. Ronnie then formed the Faces with McLagan, Jones, Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart in 1969. He shared composing or co-composing duties with Stewart, Wood and McLagan. By 1972, with the band's frontman Rod Stewart focusing on his solo career, Ronnie took a central role during the recordings of their 4th and final album, Ooh La La. Unhappy due to poor reviews of the album and Rod Stewart's lack of commitment, he quit in 1973 making his last appearance on the 4th of June at the Sundown Theatre in Edmonton, London. He was replaced by Tetsuya Muche, but tellingly the group made no further studio albums following Ronnie's departure and split in 1975. After leaving the Faces, Ronnie formed his own band, Slim Chance, who recorded the singles How Come, UK number 11, and The Poacher, UK number 36, and the album Any More for Any More, showcasing a blend of British rock, folk and country music. The original lineup of this band included Scottish singer-songwriters Benny Gallagher and Graham Lyle, who provided harmony vocals and played a variety of instruments. They left in May 1974 to continue with their career as a duo. After initial success, he toured the UK with The Passing Show, a circus-type carnival complete with tents and barkers. Viv Stanshall from the Bonzo Dog Doodah band served briefly as ringmaster of sorts. Gallagher and Lyle were replaced with Scottish duo Lucas and McCulloch. They also acted as support act along with fiddle player Kenny Slavin, who multi-tracked on the string parts on The Poacher. Ronnie moved to Island Records and issued Ronnie Lane's Slim Chance and One for the Road. However, he had signed a contract with Atlantic Records as part of the Small Faces and was informed that he owed the company an album. His ensuing album, Rough Mix, was released in 1977, was lauded as contender for the best album of the year by many critics, but the label did not promote it and sales were lackluster. During the recording of Rough Mix, Ronnie was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Nonetheless, he toured, wrote and recorded, and in 1979 released another album, See Me, which features several songs written by Ronnie and Eric Clapton. Around this time, he travelled the highways and byways of England and lived a passing show, modern nomadic life in full gypsy traveller costume and accommodation. In 1983, his girlfriend Boo Oldfield contacted Glyn Johns with a view to organising a concert to help fund action for research into multiple sclerosis. They decided to book the Royal Albert Hall for 2 nights and host a benefit concert. The resulting ARMS charity concerts featured Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Bill Wyman, Charlie Watts, Ronnie Wood, Kenny Jones, Andy Fairweather-Lowe, Steve Winwood, Ray Cooper, James Hooker, Fernando Saunders, Chris Stainton, Tony Hymas, Simon Phillips and others. With the addition of Joe Cocker and Paul Rodgers, they also toured the US. Ronnie emigrated to Texas in 1984, first to Houston and then to Austin, where the climate was more beneficial to his health, where he continued playing, writing and recording. He formed an American version of Slim Chance, which continued to be a loose-knit conglomeration of available musicians. For close to a decade, he enjoyed rock royalty status in the Austin area. He toured Japan, but his health continued to decline. His last performance was in 1992 in a gig with Ronnie Wood and Ian McLagan. In 1994, Ronnie and his wife Susan, Sue Galagos, moved to the small town of Trinidad, Colorado. Jimmy Page, Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood funded his medical care as no royalties from the Small Faces were forthcoming. Ronnie died from pneumonia during the final stages of multiple sclerosis on the 4th of June 1997 at the age of 51. As a tribute to Ronnie, in 2000, Paul Weller recorded He's the Keeper, a song dedicated to Ronnie's memory. A street was named after him, Ronnie Lane, in Manor Park, London E12 in 2001. In January 2006, BBC 4 broadcast an extensive documentary about Ronnie, The Passing Show, that had been in preparation since 2000 and included footage of vintage concerts by The Faces and Slim Chance. In October 2006, the documentary was also shown on BBC Two. Ronnie was affectionately known as Plonk for his hapless efforts to play guitar before discovering his talent was playing bass. Let's see where his grave is located. The second cemetery is the Shrineofremembrance Mausoleum in Colorado Springs, where we visit two celebrity graves.
Like show business, like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow.
First, we have Ethel Merman. Ethel Agnes Zimmerman was born on the 16th of January 1908 in Astoria, Queens, New York, and was an American actress and singer. She has been called the undisputed First Lady of the musical comedy stage. In her early life, Ethel's parents insisted she have an education with training in secretarial skills in case her entertainment career failed. She attended PS4 and William Cullen Bryant High School, which later named its auditorium in her honour, where she pursued a commercial course that offered secretarial training. After graduating from Bryant High School in 1924, she was hired as a stenographer by the Boyce Ike Company. One day during her lunch break, she met Vic Kleisrath, who offered her a job at the Bragg Kleisrath Corporation for a US $5 increase above the weekly $23 salary she was earning, and she accepted the offer. She was eventually made personal secretary to company president Caleb Bragg. During this period, Ethel began appearing in nightclubs, first hired by Jimmy Durante's partner Lou Clayton. At this time, she decided the name Ethel Zimmerman was too long for a theatre marquee. She considered combining Ethel with Gardner or Hunter, which was her grandmother's maiden name. Her father strongly disapproved of these considerations, so she abbreviated Zimmerman to Merman to appease him. During a 2-week engagement at a club in Midtown Manhattan called Little Russia, Ethel met agent Lou Irwin, who arranged for her to audition for Archie Mayo, a film director under contract at Warner Brothers. He offered her an exclusive 6-month contract, starting at $125 per week, and she quit her day job, only to find herself idle for weeks while waiting to be cast in a film. Ethel underwent a tonsillectomy, which she feared would damage her voice, but after recovering, she discovered it was more powerful than ever. While performing, she was signed to replace Ruth Etting in the Paramount film Follow the Leader 1930, starring Ed Wynn and Gigi Rogers. Ethel performed in many stage musicals and was invited to audition for the role of San Francisco cafe singer Kate Fothergill in the new George and Ira Gershwin musical Girl Crazy. Upon hearing her sing I Got Rhythm, the Gershwins immediately cast her, and Ethel began balancing daytime rehearsals with her matinee and evening performance schedule at the Palace Theatre. Girl Crazy opened on October the 14th, 1930 at the Alwyn Theatre, where it ran for 272 performances. During the run of Girl Crazy, Paramount signed Ethel to appear in a series of 10 short musical films, most of which allowed her to sing both a rousing number and a ballad. Ethel returned to Hollywood to appear in We're Not Dressing 1934. She also appeared on screen with Eddie Cantor in Kid Millions, also 1934, but her return to Broadway established her as a major star and cemented her image as a tough girl. She next appeared with Eddie Cantor in the film Strike Me Pink 1936 and was featured in the comedy Happy Landing, one of the top 10 box office hits of 1938, which featured Cesar Romero and Donna Meche. In 1940, Ethel married her first husband, William Smith. She later said she knew on their wedding night that she had made a dreadful mistake, and 2 months later she filed for divorce on grounds of desertion. Shortly after, in 1941, she met and married Robert D. Levitt, a promotion director for the New York Journal American. The couple eventually had 2 children, Ethel, born on the 20th of July 1942, and Robert Jr., born on the 11th of August 1945. They divorced in 1952 due to Robert's excessive drinking and erratic behaviour. Having worked previously with Irving Berlin, she reunited with him for Call Me Madam in 1950, which she won the Tony Award and Best Performance by a Leading Actress in a Musical, and she starred in the 1953 screen adaptation as well, winning the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress, Motion Picture Musical or Comedy for her performance. The following year she appeared as the matriarch of the singing and dancing Donahue family in There's No Business Like Showbusiness, a film score written by Irving Berlin. Ethel returned to Broadway at the behest of her third husband, Continental Airlines executive Robert Six, who was upset she had chosen to become a housewife in Colorado following their wedding in 1953. He expected her public appearances to generate publicity for the airline, and her decision to forego the limelight did not sit well with him. He urged her to accept the lead in Happy Hunting. Ethel acquiesced to her husband's demands, although she clashed with the composers from the start and soon was at odds with her co-stars. The show closed after 412 performances, with Ethel happy to see what she considered a dreary obligation come to an end. Next came Gypsy, which was based on the memoirs of Gypsy Rose Lee and starred Ethel as Rose Hovick, her domineering stage mother. The musical opened on the 21st of May 1959 at the Broadway Theatre. In the New York Post, Richard Watts called her a brilliant actress, and Brooks Atkinson of the New York Times wrote that she had given an indomitable performance, both as an actress and singer. It ran for 702 performances. Shortly after, Ethel separated from Robert Six in December 1959 and divorced in 1960 due to him having an affair with television actress Audrey Meadows. Following the Broadway closing of Gypsy on the 25th of March 1961, Ethel half-heartedly embarked on the national tour. In San Francisco, she severely injured her back, but continued to perform for packed houses. Her role in Gypsy earned her an estimated $130,000 per year, plus an additional 10% of the box office receipts. In 1963, Ethel starred in the comedy film It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, one of my favourites, alongside Spencer Tracy, Sid Caesar, Phil Silvers and Mickey Rooney. She played Mrs. Marcus, the loudmouth mother-in-law of Milton Berle. The film was a major box office success, earning $60 million on a budget of $9.4 million and becoming the third highest grossing film of 1963. It received 6 Academy Award nominations and 1 win. Ethel's fourth and final marriage was to actor Ernest Borgnine. They were married in Beverly Hills on the 27th of June 1964. They separated on the 7th of August 1964, and Borgnine filed for divorce on the 21st of October 1964. In 1967 she appeared in 3 episodes of Batman, playing the part of Lola Lasagna. In 1979 she recorded the Ethel Merman disco album, with many of her signature songs set to a disco beat. She was a guest host on an episode in the first season of The Muppet Show. Her last screen role was a self-parody in the 1980 comedy film Airplane, in which she portrayed Lieutenant Hurwitz, a shell-shocked soldier who thinks he's Ethel Merman. In a radio interview, Ethel said of her numerous marriages, "We all make mistakes. That's why they put rubbers on pencils, and that's what I did. I made a few Lulus." In her 1978 autobiography, Merman, a chapter titled My Marriage to Ernest Borgnine consists of a blank page. Ethel Levitt, her daughter, died on the 23rd of August of a drugs overdose that was ruled accidental. Her son Robert Jr. was married to actress Barbara Colby. Colby, at the time estranged from Robert, was shot and killed, along with a friend, James Kiernan, in a parking garage in Los Angeles in 1975. The shooting was by apparent gang members who had no clear motive. Ethel, a lifelong Republican, was a frequent guest of Dwight D. Eisenhower's at the White House. She was noted as saying, "Eisenhower was my war hero and the president I admire and respect most." On the 20th of January 1981 she performed Everything's Coming Up Roses at the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. She had previously sung the same song at the inauguration gala for John F. Kennedy, but it was never broadcast. She also co-wrote 2 memoirs. The first, Who Could Ask for Anything More, 1955, was written with the assistance of Pete Martin. The second, Merman, 1978, was written with George Eales. Ethel became forgetful with advancing age, and on occasion had difficulty with her speech. At times her behaviour was erratic, causing concern among her friends. On the 7th of April 1983, she was preparing to travel to Los Angeles to appear on the 55th Academy Awards telecast, when she collapsed in her apartment. She was taken to Roosevelt Hospital, Mount Sinai West, where doctors initially thought she had suffered a stroke. After undergoing exploratory surgery on the 11th of April, she was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma. The New York Times reported that she underwent brain surgery to have the tumour removed, but it was inoperable and her condition was deemed terminal. Doctors gave her 8.5 months to live. The tumour caused her to become aphasic, and as her illness progressed, she lost her hair and her face swelled. According to her biographer, Brian Kello, Ethel's family and manager did not want the true nature of her condition revealed to the public. Her son, Robert Jr., who took charge of her care, later said he chose not to publicly disclose his mother's condition because she strove to keep her personal life private. Ethel's health eventually stabilized enough for her to be brought back to her apartment in Manhattan. On the 15th of February 1984, 10 months after she was diagnosed with brain cancer, Ethel died at home at the age of 76. On the evening of her death, all 36 theatres on Broadway dimmed their lights at 9 p.m. in her honour. A private funeral service for her was held in a chapel at St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church on the 27th of February, after which Ethel was cremated at the Frank E. Campbell Funeral Chapel. In accordance with her wishes, her remains were given to her son. She was interred in the Shrine of Remembrance Mausoleum in Coloradosprings, Colorado, next to her daughter Ethel. Upon her death, she left an estate established to be worth $1.5 million to be divided between her son and 2 grandchildren. On the 10th of October 1984, an auction of her personal effects, including furniture, artwork and theatre memorabilia, earned over $120,000 at Christie's East. The 56th Academy Awards, held on the 2nd of April 1984, ended with a performance of There's No Business Like Showbusiness as a tribute to Ethel. During her career, Ethel appeared in 17 stage plays or musicals between 1930 and 1977, and 17 films between 1930 and 1980, and also in 40 television shows between 1949 and 1982. She also released 12 hit records between 1932 and 1951. Her awards include 4 Tonys in 1951, 1957, 1960 and 1972, of which she won 2 for Call Me Madam and Ethel Merman Special Award. She won a Golden Globe in 1953 for Call Me Madam, a Grammy Award in 1960 for Gypsy, and a Desk Drama Award in 1970 for Hello Dolly. Let's see where her grave is located. The second grave in the Shrine of Remembrance Mausoleum is Ruth Etting.
It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around, finally found somebody who could make me be true, could make me be blue, and even be glad just to be sad, thinking of you.
Born on the 23rd of November 1896 in David City, Nebraska, she was an American singer and actress. Her mother died when she was 5 years old, and she then lived with her paternal grandparents. Her father remarried and moved away from David City and was no longer a part of his daughter's life. She enjoyed drawing and filled her school books with them. She left David City at the age of 16 to attend art school in Chicago. Ruth gained a job designing costumes at the Marigold Gardens nightclub, which led to employment singing and dancing in the chorus. Her big moment came when a featured vocalist suddenly became ill and was unable to perform. With no other replacement available, Ruth was asked to fill in. She quickly changed into the costume and scanned the music arrangements. The performance was male, so she tried to adjust by singing in a lower register. She became a featured vocalist at the nightclub. Ruth met gangster Martin "Mo the Gimp" Snyder in 1922 when she was performing at the Marigold Gardens in Chicago. She described herself as a young, naive girl when she arrived, and due to her inexperience in the ways of the big city, she became reliant on Snyder after their meeting. Snyder, who divorced his first wife to marry Ruth, was well acquainted with Chicago's nightclubs and the entertainers who worked in them. He once served as a bodyguard to Al Jolson. Snyder also used his political connections to gain bookings for Ruth, who was called Miss City Hall, because of Snyder's influence in Chicago. She married Snyder on the 17th of July 1922 in Crown Point, Indiana. She later said she married him 9/10 out of fear and 1/10 out of pity. Ruth later told her friends, "If I leave him, he'll kill me." He managed her career, booking radio appearances, and eventually had her signed to an exclusive recording contract with Columbia Records. The couple moved to New York in 1927, where Ruth made her Broadway debut in The Ziegfeld Follies of 1927. She went on to appear in other hit shows in rapid succession, including Ziegfeld's Simple Simon and Whoopee. Toward the end of the Simple Simon's Broadway run, Ruth persuaded Ziegfeld to add Love Me or Leave Me to the show, though the song was originally written for Whoopee. She had recorded the song in 1928, but her new version of it was impressive enough to earn her a Vitaphone contract to make film shorts. In Hollywood, she made a long series of movie shorts between 1929 and 1936, and 3 feature movies in 1933 and 1934. Ruth was first heard on radio station WLS while she was living in Chicago. Her appearance drew so much fan mail, the station signed her to a year's contract for twice-weekly performances. On CBS, she broadcast twice weekly in a 15-minute radio show in the 1930s. By 1934, she was on NBC with sports announcer Ted Hewson and sponsorship of the program from Oldsmobile. In 1936, she appeared in London in Ray Henderson's Transatlantic Rhythm. She quit the show because she and the other performers had not been paid. In terms of her recording history, after an unissued test made by Victor on the 4th of April 1924, Ruth was signed to Columbia Records in February 1926. She remained at Columbia through June 1931, when she split her recordings between ARC, which is Banner, Perfect, Romeo, Oriole, etc., and Columbia through March 1933. She signed with Brunswick and remained there until May 1934, when she re-signed with Columbia through July 1935. After a solitary Brunswick session in March 1936, she signed with British label Rex and recorded 2 sessions in August and September 1936. She returned to the US and signed with Decca in December 1936 and recorded until April 1937, when she basically retired from recording. In her personal life, Ruth filed for divorce from Snyder in November 1937. Snyder's aggressive and controlling management style began to cause problems for her. During her work with Whoopee on Broadway, Snyder was a constant presence. He was never without a gun and enjoyed poking people with it and saying, "Put your hands up," and then laughing when their fright was evident. Snyder also persisted in cornering Ziegfeld because he believed Ruth's role in the musical could be improved. Ziegfeld had a different opinion and indicated nothing would be changed. Snyder would then mumble that it was not a suggestion but a demand. By 1934, she was having difficulty getting engagements. Snyder's arguing and fighting at venues where Ruth was employed caused her to be passed by for jobs in the United States. In 1936, she thought taking work in England might be the answer, but Snyder created problems while she was working there also. Soon after the couple arrived in England, Snyder became involved in a street fight, which created adverse publicity for Ruth. She divorced Mo Snyder on the grounds of cruelty and abandonment on the 30th of November 1937. Snyder did not contest the divorce and received a settlement from his former wife. She gave her ex-husband half of her earnings at the time, $50,000, some securities and a half interest in a home in Beverly Hills, California. She deducted the gambling debts of Snyder she had paid and the cost she had paid for a home for Snyder's mother. Ruth fell in love with her pianist, Mo Alderman, who was separated from his wife. In January 1938, she began receiving threatening telephone calls from Snyder, who initially claimed she withheld assets from him when the divorce settlement was made. Though the couple were divorced, Snyder was also upset because of reports that she was seeing another man. Snyder told Ruth that he would come to California and kill her. When Snyder telephoned and found Ruth unavailable, he told his daughter Edith that he would fix her ticket too. He called again that evening. This time Ruth took the call with her cousin Arthur listening in on the extension. She requested police protection after the telephone call and arranged for private protection. Apparently believing the danger was over when Snyder did not appear soon after the telephone call, she released her bodyguards for a few days. On the 15th of October 1938, Snyder detained Merle Alderman at a local radio station and forced the pianist to take him to his former wife at gunpoint. In the house at the time were Ruth and Edith Snyder. Edith, Snyder's daughter by a previous marriage, worked for her and remained living with her after the divorce. Snyder held Ruth and Alderman at gunpoint. When told his daughter was in another part of the house, he made Ruth call her into the room. Snyder said he intended to kill all three and told them to be quiet. When Merle Alderman attempted to speak, Snyder shot him. Snyder then told his ex-wife, "I've had my revenge, so you can now call the police." Snyder claimed Merle Alderman pulled a gun and shot at him first, and that his ex-wife would not file charges against him because she still loved him. He also claimed he was drunk when he made the telephone threats to Ruth in January 1938, saying that at the time his intentions were to kill both his ex-wife and himself. Ruth said that the only gun in her home belonged to her, and after the shooting of Alderman, she was able to go into the bedroom and get it. Upon seeing her gun, Mo Snyder wrestled it away from her. It landed on the floor. Snyder's daughter, Edith, picked it up and held it on her father, shooting at him but hitting the floor instead. During a police reenactment of the shooting 3 days later, Edith Snyder said that she fired at her father to save Ruth Etting, weeping as she continued, "I don't know whether I am sorry I missed my dad or whether I am glad." Snyder was accused of attempting to murder his ex-wife, his daughter, and Ruth's accompanist, Merle Alderman, the kidnapping of Alderman, as well as California state gun law violations. 3 days after the shooting of Merle Alderman, the pianist's second wife, Alma, sued Ruth for alienation of her husband's affections. This led to many court battles with claims of marriage, divorce, lies and lawsuits. Ruth married Alderman, who was almost a decade her junior, on the 14th of December 1938 in Las Vegas during Mo Snyder's trial for attempted murder. Snyder was convicted of attempted murder but released on appeal after 1 year in jail. Snyder won a new trial but returned to jail in January 1940 in lieu of bail. Ruth, who had retired from performing prior to the shooting and subsequent trials, briefly had a radio show on WHN in 1947. She also accepted an engagement at New York's Copacabana in March of the same year. She travelled alone to New York and during a newspaper interview was asked if she had ever seen Mo Snyder again. She replied, "No, I hope I never do," and said that her husband never went to bed without a gun. Ruth and Alderman moved to an 8-acre farm outside of Colorado Springs in 1938. From 1947 until 1949, Ruth and Alderman operated a restaurant. Alderman died in Denver on the 28th of November 1966 and was temporarily buried in the Evergreen Cemetery, Colorado Springs. Ruth died from disease in Colorado Springs on the 24th of September 1978 at the age of 81. They are interred at the Shrine of Remembrance Mausoleum in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Ruth Etting's life was the basis for the fictionalized film Love Me or Leave Me 1955, which starred Doris Day as Etting, James Cagney as Snyder, and Cameron Mitchell as Alderman. She has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for her work in films located on the north side of the 6500 block of Hollywood Boulevard. Ruth released 63 singles between 1926 and 1937. Her signature tunes were Shine On Harvest Moon, 10 Cents a Dance, and Love Me or Leave Me. All but the last four were with Columbia Records. Ruth also made 5 appearances on Broadway between 1927 and 1931 and appeared in 29 short and 4 feature films between 1929 and 1934. Let's see where her grave is located. That completes the Colorado graves. I hope you have enjoyed them. As usual, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Also, leave comments below. I always reply to all comments left. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.